All right, good evening. Thank you for coming. All right, wow, we have an exciting evening, all right, for everyone tonight. Thank you so much for coming out. I know it's a busy night, a lot of events going on in town, so thank you for joining us to hear from this legend in track and field, three-time Olympian Justin Gatlin. Hello, my name is Angie Milford. I am the head coach at Maclay School for cross country and track and field. We are very fortunate to have this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to hear Justin Gatlin here in a personal setting to speak to you. He came to speak to you, to the kids, the young athletes, the young runners, which is really exciting to me. Those of you who know me know I love what I do. I love coaching at Maclay. I love all the kids that I coach. I truly enjoy what I do because I want to help them to become the best runner they can be, but also, along with that, become the best person they can be. To see a runner break through barriers, reach a goal, they light up with that look of wonderful amazement that I just did that. I love that. As a coach, that's what makes me happy. Everyone has different goals. As I tell the kids, you set your own goals. Don't compare yourself to anybody else. Everyone is different. Each runner takes a different journey. And I will say to you, let your journey mold you into the best runner and person you can be. So whether or not I'm lucky enough to coach you at Maclay or with Gulf Winds or anywhere, I will leave you at this, and I think that Justin Gatlin will agree with me on this. This is from a former runner. It's a quote from a former Maclay runner. She also ran the Olympic trials for the women's marathon, and a dear friend, many of us know her as AP. Her quote is, "Surround yourself with the dreamers and the doers, the believers and the thinkers, but most of all, surround yourself with those who see greatness within you, even when you don't see it yourself." Now I'd like to introduce Gary Wilson. Gary is the CEO of Proform Sports, specializing in building the best tracks and track surfaces in the world. He also played football at the University of Virginia and played in the NFL. He's a member of many associations, including the NFL Players Association, the NFL Alumni, USA Track and Field, US Track and Field Cross Country Association. I will say he's better known for his wife, Mary Roberts, and their amazing daughter, Alana, a future track star herself. So I would like to introduce Gary, my good friend. As he comes up, we're also going to show a video.
Guys, that's a video that Justin's never even seen. However, he's worked with that product for years, and he's never even seen the video. He and his agent and my business partner, Ronaldo and Nehemiah, put that together 3 years ago with one of the producers of ESPN Sports. And we went through some heavy limits to do that. Actually, the first part of that, Coach Angie, was filmed at Barron Stadium. So, the actual athlete. But again, my name's Gary Wilson. I want to thank everybody for coming here tonight. This is really special. And to Coach Angie for allowing us to bring Justin here to speak. I also want to let you know that Coach Angie has assembled an awesome team here. And those that know her, she's been, in my opinion, one of the best track coaches in the state of Florida over a period of time, and we really appreciate that. She works well with the kids. We look forward to seeing her every day, and we encourage people to assist and help any way we can with our track program. We need all the assistance we can get, and thank you guys. She's got all the tenacity in the world, the best strategy on meet day, better than anybody I've ever seen. She's able to put together points that I can't figure out where she gets those points from, but we seem to score. And there's some really good athletes in here, and I see Collins in here, and I see Rachel in here, Lana, and the rest of them. I see you, Peyton. I see the rest of you in here, and I really appreciate y'all because you do a really good job and you work very hard, and I appreciate that. And before I introduce Justin, I want everybody to know in the room that Coach Angie and Mr. Milford are in the process of planning for building a new sports facility and a running track. And it's kind of a touchy thing, but we want you to know that it's going to be a state-of-the-art track facility, second to none in the state of Florida, and that's at any level. That includes IMG, University of Florida, Central Florida, Miami, Florida State, and I built all those tracks at those locations anyway, but this track's going to be better than theirs. And the design will be high-tech with 9-lane straightaways, 9-lane oval, multiple colors and exchange zones, and it'll all be to 30 meters. For any of you people that know that you've got to have these exchange zones. We got in trouble at a couple of meets this year because we weren't marked off correctly and a lot of those types of things. But nobody's even adjusted to the 30 meters yet here in this city, even at the college level. So this track's going to be a polyurethane, biotuned, dual durometer system for peak athletic performance. It's not going to be anything remotely close to it of any sorts. So just letting you know, support that. We're looking at it. We want to give something back to the kids here. We really, really look forward to every track season. They go by so fast. Now I want to present my good friend Justin, and I want you to pay a lot of attention. His amazing rides through the most dynamic athlete to ever spike up in this business, the most dynamic guy ever. So Justin, come on up.
How's everybody doing tonight? Good? All right, I won't take up too much of your time. I know it's Friday night. I know you guys want to get out, have some fun. And all I know is how to be fast. So I want to start with telling you that one of the reasons why I'm here is because I believe that as an elite athlete, it's my obligation, my duty to be able to pass on a knowledge that I needed to be able to make me successful on to the next generation and the generation after that. And why I say that is because track and field, no matter if you do distance, throws, jumps, sprints, whatever, you're lucky if you get to turn professional. And why I say that is because there's no draft. There's no handpick. We all know that you got to run as hard as you can, as fast as you can, as long as you can, just to get a phone call and maybe a letter in the mail, and hopefully from a school that you desire to go to. So what I'm going to tell you tonight is one of the stories. I've been in track and field for what, maybe over 20 years of just professional track and field, and that was my whole adult life. So with that, I've won Olympic gold medals, world championship medals, broken the world record, had my ups and downs. It was a beautiful ride. One story stands out to me the most, and I wanted to bring it here, and I was telling Gary about this, is that I want to talk about 2017, my world championships, when I beat Usain Bolt. And why I'm going to talk about this, not because I beat Usain Bolt, but what led up to that moment in time of taking that victory. In 2016, I fractured my ankle. And I still made the Olympic team, rehabbed, got on Olympic team, medaled. After I got that silver medal, I still felt hollow because I wasn't my whole self. So going into 2017, I had issues from my ankle leading up to my hip. So I wasn't able to be the best starter I used to be. I was a great starter, one of the world-class best starters. When you watch a lot of my races, I'm leading in the front of the pack from the gun goes off. I couldn't do that in 17 because my hip would not allow me. So I had to change my whole technique. I had to change who I was. And usually as an athlete, we have our habits, right? We run from the front, we run from the back, we pace, we do whatever, and that's what has led us to our success. Now, mind you, from 2017 before, I usually was known as the best starter in the world. I had to go home and think about it. And in one moment, I realized, watching old tapes of YouTubes of myself, I wasn't leading the pack in college. I wasn't running at the front. I was running people down. So at some point in time, I wasn't the best starter in the world. I had to learn and teach myself how to be a better starter, to compete against people like Usain Bolt, Tyson Gay, Johan Blakes. So what I did is I humbled myself, and I said, if I could do that and be successful then, I can retrain myself to be just as successful now. So I started on that mission. We had maybe 3 months before we had to get ready for World Championships in 2017. And I worked hard every day. I didn't take a day off. Saturdays, Sundays, worked all the way through. And when I finished completing the task that I needed, which is to be a finisher and not a starter, I was confident in myself. Leading up to that, I didn't want to be able to have a telltale sign showing the world that, okay, he has a finish now. He's not just a starter. And usually when you run against guys like Usain, his coach and himself are going to watch what you're going to do. We got to the World Championships. We were training. We were getting ready at the warm-up track. I get to my first round. The crowd is full of people. 100,000 people in the stands. London. This is Usain Bolt's farewell tour. Last championship, last 100 meters he's ever going to run, ever. I get to the line, my prelims, and we're going down the line. Lane 1, such and such. Lane 2, such and such. Lane 3, and everybody's cheering for him, clapping for him. Then they get to my lane. Lane 4, Justin Gatlin. And I hear a couple of rumbles. Boo. And I didn't think anything of it. I was basically like the top competitor to Usain and everybody else in the field. So get through the first round, stick to what my plan was, not to show my competitors that I had a finish. So I had a good start, maintained, went through. Prelims are usually easy. I get to the semis, warm up, line back up. Lane 1, lane 2, lane 3. Get to my lane again. The rumbles are louder. Boo! So you're hearing the whole stadium is starting to kind of get this and kind of feeling this. I said, okay, I see what's going on here. As I get in the blocks, I remember, I'm not here for them. I'm here for myself. I'm here for my championship. I'm here for my glory. So what they were going to do for me was nothing. They couldn't change who I was. I knew who I was. So as I made it through the semis, going into the finals, we had about an hour and a half before we had to go into the finals. And as we walked down into the stadium, and the stadium opened up, and you see more people in the stadium, it becomes electrifying. It's the finals, the World Championships. The last one that Usain is going to run. The crowd is going crazy. It's his second home. And as we went down the roll call once again, lane 1, lane 2, lane 3, and as I get to Usain, and have you ever been outside of a stadium where it's like people are shooting a goal or scoring a goal in soccer? It's crazy. Then it gets to my lane. Now, mind you, I won every round leading up to that. And usually in sprints, your fastest people from each heat are usually in the middle. It's seated. For whatever reason, they put me in lane 8. So as I got to lane 8, the energy that they gave Usain was the same as they gave for me, but in reverse. It was the loudest boo I've ever heard in my life. And I remember thinking, if I ever got booed like this, I would just shrivel up and die. It happened to me. I didn't shrivel up and die. It actually gave me motivation. As I stood there, I wanted to prove over 100,000 people wrong. I wanted to tell them and show them who I was. So as we got down the blocks, Usain's in lane 3, all the way over here. I'm in lane 8, all the way over here. And if you ever ran a sprint in a straightaway, to be able to know where your top opponents are, you need to be next to them, at least a lane or two away from him. So in 3 and 8, I couldn't feel him. He couldn't feel me. The gun goes off. And if you've ever seen this race, there's a young guy named Christian Coleman. He jumps out in front of everybody. Usain goes in hot pursuit, chase him down. I get off the block. As I get off the block and get to 50 meters of the race with everyone else, I'm in 5th place. This was my moment. What I've been working on at this moment was to be a finisher, not a starter. And as I got to 51 meters, 52, and so on, I started walking people down, step by step. And as we got to the finish line, I was able to lean over and look over across all these people and see that I was beating Usain, Christian Coleman, and I was winning this race. And as I crossed that line, I knew automatically I already won the race. But it was so close, and the UK didn't want me to win. It took them forever to bring it up on the scoreboard. So everyone's walking around. Christian Coleman's like this. He thought he won. Usain was like, he at least thought he got second. And then my name pops up. And when my name pops up, you hear this gasp in the whole audience. And I look at everybody in the stadium and I say, shh. That was me silencing them because I stepped into that arena knowing who I was, competing at a level that I knew I could compete at, and beating the opponents I knew I could beat. I wasn't going to let strangers or anybody that I knew tell me what I could or couldn't do. This was my moment. I had to make sure that I sealed the deal in this moment. I could have said, hey, you know what, this is Usain Bolt's last race. Let him have it. He's won them all. It's going to be a fairy tale ending. It's going to be beautiful. No. If you're going to line up to run, that means you signed up to compete. And you got to compete to the best of your ability. And that's what I did. And as I hushed the crowd, if you've seen the video, the first thing Usain comes over to me, he whispers in my ear, he said, hey, congratulations. If I couldn't do it, I wouldn't want anybody else to do it. And this is my top competitor that I've had throughout my whole career, who could have easily snubbed me, walked off the track, whatever. But it shows you that a champion recognizes a champion, and a champion knows who they are. And I'm telling you this because as you're at the age you are now, from middle school to high school to college, you're going to encounter a lot of obstacles. You have to overcome a lot. There's going to be athletes who are going to be faster than you, even on your team. There's going to be people you're not going to even get along with, sometimes coaches. But stay true to who you are. Believe who you are. From that moment on, I went in from 17, going into 18 and 19 with a different kind of confidence, knowing that I had a target on my back. But I had to work harder for it. I had to stay diligent. And for that moment in 17, it showed me something. No matter what I do going forward, I'm still going to be who I am. So I ask you and I challenge you all, know what your fears are, know what your plan is going forward. I set up a system that I used throughout my whole career from 20 last 20 years. I call it the FAST system. It's the same steps that you have for the 100 meters. You have a start, you have a drive phase, you have a transition, you have a finish. With the FAST system, what you'll be able to, with the FAST system, you're breaking it down. FAST is focus. The A is accountability. The S is structure. The T is the transition. These are things that you're going to use in your races, but also in your everyday walk of life. You have to stay focused on what your goals and your desires are. You have to have accountability for yourself. You have to build some kind of structure to be able to accomplish your goals. The transition is going to be hard because winning is not easy. And when you finish, the finish line is going to take care of itself. You're going to go through it. So going forward, I just want to tell you a little bit about my story in 17 and how I felt about it. And I want to open the floor for any kind of questions. I just retired. I retired last year. Also doing some speaking and also going into wealth management. So I'm trying new things, different things for myself. Finishing as an athlete and being an athlete your whole career, your whole life almost, it's a different kind of transition because now you're going into the real world. And a lot of athletes don't realize that. You know, this is something that started as a hobby for you, and now you have created a life for you. You've created success for yourself, and then one day it's going to be done. That one day is usually by the age of 30, 40 years old, when usually your peers who are not athletes, they're going to get into their career. They've got their degree, they got their master's, they're going on with their life, and now you have to kind of reset yourself and to try to do something else and something different and find a different passion for yourself as well. That's a hard thing because as an athlete, you're driven off of passion. That's why you wake up every day. That's why you go to practice every day. That's why you train as hard as you do. That's why you bounce back after every loss, hoping that you can win the next one because that passion drives you. So that's what I'm doing now, is searching for myself, searching for my passion going forward and trying to relay that to the kids.
I just wanted to say, best performance in the 39, right?
Yep.
39.
I was doing it for us, but to make a point to that is, from the time I hit 30 years old, usually for a sprinter, a male sprinter, the shelf life for a sprinter is usually 6 years, 7 years tops, right? Maybe 2 Olympic cycles. So you're in there for 4 and then another 4 and then you're kind of out of there, right? So for me, I love what I did. I love running. I love competing. So I learned how to evolve. Instead of saying, okay, I got to be done at a certain age and then I got to figure out what my life consists of at that age because the world tells me I have to do it. I said, no, I'm going to be able to figure out what I want to do. I still feel like I have the speed. I still feel like I have the power. I still feel like I have the competitiveness inside of me. So what I did is, as a seasoned athlete, I took it more serious. So instead of clocking in and clocking out every day, going to the track, then leaving and then going doing things that's going to be opposite of being a healthy athlete, eating hamburgers and pizza and all these kind of things, staying up to 3 o'clock in the morning, I turned track and field and staying healthy into a lifestyle. So I learned about having a better diet. I learned about how to stretch better. I learned different techniques that was going to help sustain me forever how long I wanted to keep running. So to have a career in track and field for over 20 years is almost unheard of. So I actually kind of lived almost 2 careers in one. But that's because I believe that my story was not done at that point. I had so much more to give and so much more I wanted to accomplish. And so when I did that, I kind of changed the rhythm of things. Now you've seen a lot of other athletes who are going beyond 30 years old and still competing at a higher level because now they've learned how to evolve and become better athletes.
When did it click with you, like, okay, I've got to do this if I want to stay, or when did it like turn on, like, oh my gosh, okay, I've got to take care of myself? What's the one thing that you did that, okay, this is what I've got to do to take care of myself? Back when you first started.
Each level that I reached, so from middle school to high school to college to professionals, as I went and became a freshman or rookie each time, whatever you want to call it, I humbled myself. So whatever knowledge I brought and techniques I brought from the previous section of my career or life, I kind of put that aside. I allowed the coach to coach me. I allowed the coach to teach me certain new things, because if you're still going to teach something that an athlete would already know, I can be able to say, okay, I know that. All right, I can just reapply that back into what I already know. So I think that helped me stay active, but also focused, because I was constantly learning something new. And I was allowing myself to learn something new instead of saying, well, my coach don't know what they're talking about, or I know better than my coach. Well, that's why your coach is your coach. They're coaching you. They're teaching you. You know, they know something that you don't know, or they've been through something that you have not been through. So I allowed that to happen. I allowed my coaches, each level, to be a guru to me, to teach me something, and I compiled all that together to be able to make a sound elite athlete that was deadly on the track, but also sharp in the mind.
How does recovery look for you as an athlete trying to focus on nutrition?
Recovery as an athlete? Well, you know, when you're young, you know, you're not too much into stretching. Stretching may take 10 minutes. You may do a bounce stretches here and there. But throughout my career, I've had a couple of hamstring tears, quad strains. So I learned how to do more self-care, foam rolling, massage gun, stretching, yoga, Pilates. So I would take the time to learn how to take care of my body, because if my body's wrecked, how am I going to perform? How am I going to get back on the track and be able to hit my times or PR? So if you're not able to do that, and then you get on the track and your hamstring is hurting or cramping, and you got to get on the line, your coach is telling you, get on the line. And you think you're going to get injured, or you think you're going to run bad. You probably are, because you're not taking care of your body. So for me, I took the time to learn the art of recovery. And I implemented that into my daily routine. I would stretch in the morning. I'll stretch at night. Even when I got to the track, I'll do a whole different section of different stretches and routines. And that helped me be a better athlete. I learned that from 2013. And by the time I got to 2015 was a year that I made history, because I ran the most fastest 9.7s ever put together in one season. That's all because I took the time to take care of my body, instead of thinking that this person's going to take care of my body who's a massage therapist, or this person's going to take care of my body, and leaving it up to them. You only get one body, you only get one life, you only get one career. So for me, I felt like it was very valuable to learn those things, and it took me further in my career.
You talked about how you had a lot of people who were against you, the stats. Was there anyone while you were an athlete who motivated you heavily?
Good question. I would say, I guess it's a difference between motivation and inspiration, right? So my motivation was my team. And what I mean by my team is my coach, my training partners, my agent, because I got to a point where my second year as a professional athlete, I won an Olympic gold medal. And usually when that happens, you reach your peak, right? That's what everybody wants to accomplish. They want to be the champion. So I had to learn that it wasn't about what I only desired or what I only wanted. I was motivated by what my team also wanted and what success they needed. So I took that energy and I put it into my workouts every day, or I put it into my competitions around when I went around the world to be able to help make them happy, help make them successful. So it wasn't just a me situation. I know track and field can be a very individualized sport, and sometimes you feel very alone out there. But when I think about the team that's back there in the warm area waiting for me to come back, or do I want to come back to a team that's going to be sad, try to pat me on the back, and they're going to have frowns on their faces? Or do I want to come back to a team that's ready to pop bottles and go out and party and have a good time? So I felt like that was on me to be able to dictate, and with the effort I put out into the track beats or at practice, I held myself accountable, saying, okay, they need this, I'm going to give it to them. I was doing football, actually, NFL for a little while. We talked about it. I talked about it earlier with Gary. And I realized something. Even though I was still working out, still training throughout that time period, I got fat, got really fat, to the point where when I came back into the track and field world, the team I was training with, they didn't call me Gatlin, they called me Fatlin. But it didn't break me. It motivated me, you know? It told me that I had to be better. So then I started racking my brain about how I can be better, and realizing that I had to eat better, had to train better. Because as an athlete, you're running every day. You're burning so many calories every day, right? You can eat whatever you want. That's what you feel like. I realized that apple pie isn't a fruit. And from there, that's when my diet kicked in. So as I learned from that point, and I started training, getting better, I realized, okay, I have to be a better athlete. But my football stint, I tried out with the Saints, tried out with the Texans. I was on the Buccaneers practice squad for a little while. And then I woke up one night, it was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I said to myself, why am I trying so hard to be accepted in a world where they don't believe in track athletes? They think we just run fast and can't catch. So by the time I step on the field, they're already denying me. I could have stood up to that challenge, but then my next thought was, why don't you go back to a sport where you once was a king and you know how to be able to capture the throne? So that's what I did. From that point on, from 2010 on, it was such a hard climb for me because I was denied so many times, had so many no's, blackballed. But my agent gave me a valuable lesson. It's not about what you say, it's about what you do. So if you keep winning, they're going to let you in races. If you keep winning, they're going to pay you. If you keep winning, you're going to get medals again, records again. And that's what only thing I focused on. So from 2010, that prepared me for what happened for me in 2017, which all those boos. I was ready and prepared for that because I was focused on what the goal was. And the goal was to be successful and to complete my mission.
Do you think that starting or finishing is easier for you?
I couldn't hear, sorry?
Do you think that starting or finishing is easier for you?
Whatever it takes to win. Seriously. Because I learned as an athlete, especially as a sprinter, you have to be able to have a race strategy, right? And as sprinters, it may be different for distance runners. You have a longer time than we do. I have 9 seconds. You have to commit to that, what your race strategy is as a sprinter. So I have to race against Usain. I had a race against Tyson Gay. I got a race against Asafo Powell. All these different athletes bring something different to the table. One may be a finisher, one may be a starter, one may be really good in the middle. So in 9 seconds, I got to figure out how to combat 7 other guys who are world-class athletes, and we're almost the same speed. So as the gun goes off, I have to figure out how to get in front of this guy and stay in front of him because he's a good starter. But then I got to make sure I maintain my speed and not get caught by this guy who's on the other side of him who I can't see. So I have to create a strategy that's going to say, okay, Justin, get out hard. Make sure this guy is subdued, but make sure that you run this guy down if he's in front of you, or you hold him off so you can get to the finish line first. That's what I had to do in Lausanne in 2015. I had a finisher, a strong finisher, who was the American record holder at the time, and I had one of the fastest Jamaicans in history on the other side of me. So I had to be able to combine a strategy of being a good starter, but also a strong finisher. So don't just go out and run and just think you can run and race and that's what it's going to be. Because then most likely you will get beat. You got to be able to bring some kind of strategy to your race plan. Be a student of your game. Be a student of your event. Know the athletes that came before you in your school or in the area or in the nation. Know the athletes that are coming behind you. Know the athletes you're going to compete against now. See what makes them good. Because guess what? You got to line up the same line they got to line up, and you got to finish at the same line they finish at. So it's an equal race. What makes them better or what makes you better? You got to figure that out before you get to that starting line, and then you can apply that. Anybody else? We good?
Explain to the kids what would you do in the beginning of the year, your training regimen from the summer months to the fall to the winter to the track season. Give them an idea. Strength training, running, all those types of things.
Active rest. Y'all know what active rest is? So usually in my off time, I'm still doing something active. So my body won't be shocked by the time it's time for me to get back into my training regimen, which my coach would have. And usually our first workouts are repeat 500s, which I hate. So what I would do is I would do something that would give me cardio exercise, open my lungs, give me a good sweat throughout my off-season active rest training. I took on boxing because I didn't have to run. I had to get on the bike. But guess what? You get 2 minutes in the ring, 2 minutes off. 2 minutes in the ring, 2 minutes off. Work on those kind of things. I worked on to be able to create a great strategy or a great system, should I say, in my off season that helped me become better as I went into my fall training. Because usually what happens is you're going to have the same kind of training each year, and it's going to get redundant. Spice it up a little bit. Find something that's going to be a challenge for you. I never boxed in my life, but I knew that it was going to help me be better. And once I got back into regular training, I saw improvement. I was able to run 500s, not as good as I wanted to, but better. And that just enough was going to help make me a champion. And that's all I needed. So don't just sit around, do nothing the whole summer. Don't just sit around, do nothing through the fall breaks. Find something that's going to keep you active. Find something that's going to keep you motivated, and use that into whatever your goal is when it comes to come back to school and getting into your season. So much. You guys are so lucky. Oh, my God. I wish I had a smart track when I was really, really competing hard. I mean, when I started off, we just had stopwatches. I know that sounds super old when I'm saying this. But now we have timing systems. And timing systems can be able to track not only your speed that you're running, but then it can measure your stride length. It can measure your power output into the track. It can also measure your velocity, how long you're staying in the air, your touchdown, how many times you're touching down on the ground. You got so much different things out there technology-wise. You can slow yourself down, look at your form. All these kind of things really helped me out going in my career. So one thing I really liked was we had a guy who came over with a system who was able to work on my start and work on your top end speed. He was able to slow you down. He had a stick figure that was a part of the program. And you can gauge that stick figure to whatever speed you want to. So if you want it to be at world record speed, you're racing the stick figure on the screen. So then now you can see how you match up to somebody who's at world record pace. And then that scientist, if you want to say, that specialist, he can say, okay, we want to work on, make sure that your arm is swinging this way instead of this way. We want to make sure that your step is a little shorter, not too long. So all those kind of measurements made sprinting fun, but also made sprinting very valuable for me because I was learning knowledge just by watching instead of thinking that I had to go out there and run all the time and hoping that my coach was seeing with his eyeball what he needed to. And when we get to a meet, we are guessing and hoping that everything's going to happen the way we want to. So I take on technology. Technology is a beautiful thing. Use it. Apply it to your everyday workouts. Use it for races and competition if necessary because it's the way. It's the future, and it's going to help you be a better athlete.
Side where athletes, middle school, high school, college, they want instant success, but they don't understand the concept of sacrifice or putting the time or hard work. What is your input on that?
That's a really good question. I think, and I don't want to blame this generation because this generation is a room full of this generation, right? But I think a lot of athletes have fell out of love with the process. When you watch those old movies like Rocky and everything, the best thing about the movie was the process. It was him leading up to the fight. It was him training for that moment because he learned something about himself that he could take into the ring to make him a better athlete. A lot of athletes nowadays only want to care about getting a contract, running in meets, traveling the world. All those things are going to come if you trust the process. The process is going to make you the athlete you desire to be. The process is going to make you the champion. The process is going to get you on top of that podium. When you see all those athletes on the podium when they're crying, they're not crying because they won a gold medal. They're crying because their process worked. They took a risk and a gamble on a process, and it panned out for them. And it worked, and they're happy. Trust the process. Dive into it every day. I know it sounds monotonous, but I guarantee you, if you put your head down, you work hard now, in the next couple of years, all the things that you desire can actually happen. Full scholarships, professional contracts, because now guess what? You're not skipping over certain important things that you need trying to get to what your end goal is. You're taking every step and you're laying every brick in that process to give you a strong road to your success. So everyone, don't worry about state championship. What you need to worry about right now is the first meet that you're going to have. And you need to treat the first meet as a state championship. That's how you should look at it. Don't say, oh, I got another race after that. No, this is the race that needs to be won. This one. And when that race is done, the next race needs to be won. And then the one after that and the one after that. If you love it, go for it. Because if you just throw it to the side, you're going to throw everything else to the side at some point. And it's become a habit. And as athletes, we have habits. You either have good habits or bad habits. And usually 9 times out of 10, what your Achilles heel is, the bad habits. That's what in a lot of careers, the bad habits. So learn what your habits are. Change the bad ones and encourage the good ones.
You're 39?
I am 40.
40, perfect.
Yes.
So, Tim Collins owns the world record Masters 40 at 9.93.
I know.
So when are you going to rep that?
I retired a little too soon, right? I'm going to come right when we finish building the track out here. I'm going to come back. I'm going to come out of retirement. I'm going to break the record out here. Yeah, easier said than done sometimes. I ran one 400 meter. I ran a lot of 4x4s in my life throughout college, professionally. Ran some good times when I was in good shape. But I realized that I love what I do, but I didn't want to change who I was just to stay in a sport. Because even if I was going to be a 400 meter runner, was I going to be the best 400 meter runner? Most likely not. I'm 40 years old. I'm racing against guys who are 20-something years old. You know what I mean? I would have loved it. That would have kept me in the game, right? Kept me in the party. But I realized that I have to love the sport enough to where I know when it's time for me to move to the side and allow the other athletes to have their moments. And that was my time. I did everything I could do in the sport. Everything. I love what I do. I love the feeling of running so fast I feel free. When you're running fast like that, everything slows down. It feels like the Matrix. And, I mean, if you've ever done 400 meter workouts, they're not fun. So I didn't want to take my 40-year-old body through that. So I suggested that I was going to transition out of the sport, and some people felt like it was too soon. But I felt like I could start a whole new adventure. And I realized that starting a whole new adventure for myself, I have to start over again. But I said before, that freshman or that rookie. And that's what I'm going through now. Finding who I am, finding what I want to do going forward, but also knowing what I've been through and what I've gone through and the knowledge that I've gained, and be able to use that for myself and others.
Did you ever feel stress or nervous before meets, or if you did, how did you cope?
No, I really didn't feel any stress before meets. I'm going to tell you why, though. Oh, you know what? I'm going to take that back. I did. One season. I changed camps. I had a whole new coach. And it felt so unfamiliar. I felt so awkward. I felt like I didn't get the training I needed. And when I stepped to the line, the scariest thing to me in the world is stepping to that line and not knowing what I can do. Meaning, like, if I'm going to run fast or I'm going to run slow. I felt like I was gambling. But when I felt like I was on, and I felt like I went through practice, and I worked very hard, and the times reflect what I could run in a meet, I felt unstoppable. I felt more anxious. And with anxiousness comes excitement, because I knew what I could do. I knew what my capabilities were. And I knew that anybody that's on this line has to run this time to be able to beat me. And that's the time I was going to produce. And that's all I worried about. So for athletes who are nervous, are you nervous because of uncertainty? Are you nervous because you think you're going to win or lose? You have to really ask yourself what you're nervous about. There's going to be a winner, and there's going to be losers. That's how it happens in track and field, right? How is it going to affect you? That's the real question. If you lose this one, are you going to be down on yourself, or are you going to take it as a lesson, right? Because every loss, there's a lesson in a loss, right? There's more lessons in losing than there is actually in winning. Because when you win, you're like, I did everything. I'm perfect. What do I need to do now? Just keep doing the same thing. But when you lose, you can say, man, why did they beat me? What can I do better? What did they do better? How can I change this? Do I need a different regimen? Do I need different training partners? Do I need to be more focused? All these questions that are up in the air, you have to be able to answer those questions. And you got to teach yourself, okay, when I step to the line, and you can do this at practice. I used to take days at practice and just emulate like I'm at a meet. Like I will walk up to practice, not talk to nobody, be aggressive, because that's how I'm at meets. And I'll just go through the motions and the steps of actually if I'm at a meet. I would say do that. If you're nervous, figure out why you're nervous. Don't just cover it up. Figure out why you're nervous, because you're never going to get past that, and you're going to go through your whole career being nervous. And you may win something, you may do well, but I guarantee that nervousness is going to stop you from being the best you can be. Be comfortable. Be confident in yourself. Like I said, the process is going to be so important. Make sure you ask your coach, what times am I running at practice? What pace am I on? Because then you can be able to feel it in your body, and you can be able to say, okay, this is this time, and this is what I felt. And now you can replicate that over and over again. In track and field, it's not about how fast you can run. It's about how many times you can run that fast. That's what makes a champion. The finals is not about who's the fastest. It's actually about who can endure the longest. That's what it is. You're going to line up against people who are just as fast as you, just as talented as you at some point in time, especially probably at your new college. But I guarantee you, if you stop, take it in, be a student of the game, learn who you're around, learn what they can give to you, learn what their flaws are, now you have an understanding of your realm. Now you can go into your realm and say, I can beat her because I can outkick her at the end. I can pace, I can do whatever. But if you just go to the line and just think that you're going to run, it's going to all pan out for you, it usually doesn't work out that way. So find who you are. Don't be nervous. Don't be scared. You're there for a reason. Execute.
Prepare or handle running conditions in your conditions. So maybe hot, cold, or elevation.
So, I mean, obviously, going into the elements is always going to be a tricky thing. So if I went to a place that's going to be hot, I would not take a longer time to warm up, or my usual time to warm up. I may warm up less, or I may take more time in between my warm-ups, my drills, to make sure that I wasn't overheating. If I'm in a colder place, I'll take longer, the opposite, right? But then I had to deal with the element of jet lag, traveling around the world, flying 13 hours to Japan, where it's the opposite side of the world, and you got to run where normally you would be asleep, knocked out at 5 o'clock in the morning. I learned a trick dealing with that. You don't have to follow the system that is there for you. Whatever you feel that you need to be ready for that day, you do what you got to do to be ready for that day. It could be a superstition, it could be a routine, it could be whatever. But I learned that when I got overseas, we were running races at night overseas, which would be basically midday back at home. So I just stayed up. So when everybody else was asleep over in Rome or whatever, and I'm sitting there in Rome, I'll just be up watching TV, or I'll be up on my iPad, watching Netflix, doing whatever, because I knew that I was preparing myself for a race that was going to be at this time, and I didn't need to be awake. So as 3 days went by, I would keep that same routine, and by the time I got ready for my race, everybody else is out there like this. Not me. I'm ready to go. So just figure out where you're at and apply what you need to do. You figure out the strategies is there.
How often did you find that your strategies when you were preparing for races didn't end up working out? You had to like go back and fix what you did and kind of restart the process.
Not too often, but when they happen, I would be frustrated. I was a person who took very, very anal about how I set my things up. Like the time I get ready for warm-up, my strategy. I would sit up at night, instead of watching TV, I would look at races of my opponents. I look at races of my opponents the year before, and I look at races of my opponents in this year, and what they're doing similar and what they're doing different. And I can break their races down and say, okay, well, he's pushing out the blocks high. He's not coming out low. He's not going to generate velocity down the track. So I know I can beat him from the blocks. I got to take his legs out. That's what you call it. If I'm lower than you out the blocks, I'm generating more velocity than you. I'll take your legs out. So I had to be able to implement a strategy. Now, guess what? Like I said, it's habits. If they come all of a sudden out of nowhere and we get in this race and I'm waiting for him to push up and he pushes out and we're both at the same level, it's a race. Let's go. I may lose, I may win. Dealing with Usain, Usain made it hard for me. And Usain was kind of only the one who would kind of upset my strategies. He realized that I was learning as I raced. And I beat him in 2013 in just a one-off race in Rome. And I remember him crossing the line, and we went into and he wasn't upset, but he was shocked. And then we went into the press conference afterwards. And he just had a normal press conference, and we all, were talking, answering questions. He wasn't mad or anything. But after he left the press conference, we all were walking single file line, with your team. And I remember him leaning over to his agent. He was in front of me and said, "That was embarrassing. It's never going to happen again." Just like that. "That was embarrassing. This is never going to happen again." He was talking to his agent, but I'm right there. And from 2013 on, he never raced me in a regular race during the season. The only time I was able to race Usain was at a finals of a world championships or the Olympics. Why he did that is because he knew if I raced against him anywhere else in the world, I could feel his energy, I could see his race strategy, I could be able to compete against him, I could beat him. That would lower his stock. So he took a gamble. He only raced me when he had to race me. That's it. So it took time to realize, acclimate to that system and say, okay, well, how can I beat Usain? Boom, lost to him there. How can I beat Usain? Boom, lost to him there. How can I beat Usain? Boom, lost to him there. Then I said, you know what? I'm just going to do this. I'm going to not worry about my start, and I'm going to finish. And I put it together, and I was able to beat him in his last race. So it takes time. I wasn't mad he was beating me, because at the end of the day, he was teaching me. As I was losing, I was becoming a better athlete. So from there, I won the last race. Strategy always is going to work. It may not work the first time, second time, third time, but if you keep applying strategy, the plan will work eventually. You'll get smarter, and you'll get the hang of it.
Who was the most fun guy to beat besides Usain?
Who's what?
Who's the most fun guy to beat besides Usain?
I probably would say Asafo Powell. He was another Jamaican. He came right before Usain. Why I say is because we both turned pro at the same time. So we both was running for the same amount of time in our career. I don't know, the record between, I was like 10 to his 5 or something like that. Like I beat him 10 times to his 5, 4 times. It was just fun beating him. Because I knew that he created a habit, and I watched him. He would run in races that I wasn't in, or anybody who was a threat. He would run, and as he get to the line, if the line's right here, instead of doing the traditional lean for the line, he would back off. This right here, coming across the line, like, hey, I'm going to slow down, coming across the line. That was an indication to tell the other athletes, people in the stadium, and the ones watching at home, I got more left in the tank. But when you race against people who are just as good as you and are going to run you to the line, this is going to lose every time because I'm here. So he created a habit that he didn't know how to break. So every time he ran, come across that line, he would back off. He would back off. So every time I crossed the line, I would laugh every time. I was like, you're never going to learn. So he was always fun to beat, always fun to compete against. It's between Monaco and probably Tokyo. Monaco because obviously all the wealth, the riches. We took a helicopter to the practice track. And Tokyo because it's just different, man. Other side of the world, it was amazing. But every place was so different from each other. We were training in Rio, getting ready for the Olympics, training right next to like the jungle and everything. So that was amazing. In Rome, where you train for the track, there's like these marble statues, and like you feel like you're just like a gladiator in the Coliseum, and it's only down the street. The real Coliseum is right down the street. So it's a feel. Every track that you would compete at around the world, had a different vibe. Zurich was rowdy. They would stomp because this floor was made out of metal, so they would stomp. So it was the whole stadium would do it. So everything was amazing. I love Zygrab because Zygrab was like a party. So they had a DJ. DJ played music the whole time. Doop, 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 doop. The only time the music stopped is when you get in the blocks, you get ready, gun goes off, pow, doop, 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 doop. Adults drinking wine, kids drinking soda in the crowd. You know, you love it. It's things that I never knew that I was going to encounter as an athlete, but I knew that my dream and my passion was to run, to compete, and travel the world. So these are all things that I learned as I traveled, and I'm so thankful that I was able to do that. So whatever your goals and your dreams is, go for it, shoot for it. It'll take you somewhere that you never imagined you thought you were going to be at. You'll learn things that you never knew about yourself or about the world too.
Do you have any tricks to keep your confidence up when you were losing?
Yeah, I'll look in the mirror. Tricks to keep my confidence up. Music? I'll say music. I didn't necessarily like listen always to the words of music when I was warming up, but I always think that it was like a real cool soundtrack in the background while I was warming up. So that's what it felt like. So music always kept my confidence up. Really, that's the only time I really listened to music because I didn't want it to like dull my senses of excitement. So the only time I would listen to music was when I was at a track meet. So it would get me pumped up, it get me ready, it get me excited. And then I learned how to be able to be confident enough without even having music. So I would warm up with no headphones, no nothing, and I'll just listen to like my breathing, I'll listen to my footsteps, and I'll just take myself to that quiet place and just be ready, be centered. But like you said, confidence, whatever your tool is to make you confident, use it, go for it. Your confidence, you don't gotta be Superman or Superwoman, but just be confident whatever your race plan is. Be confident whoever you're going to be.
Stop us there, because I know someone will get some pictures and stuff, spend some time. So, but Justin, thank you so much for coming and spending this time with everybody. And audience, thank you for your time coming here. So.
I appreciate you all. Thank you so much for taking your time. Like I said, I know it's a Friday night. I know you could be doing something better with your night, but thank you very much. Thank you for letting me share my story, my wisdom with you. Hope to see you again when your new track is built. And I'll come out here and cheer you all on, all right? Thank you.